October, week 1, writing, lesson 1, second grade. And we're going to be doing summaries with cause and effect. The first thing you need to do is pick which of these books you'd rather write a summary of. And this one's called Weeds and Wildflowers, and it looks like this. And then this one is called Trees, and it looks like this.
Trees. Weeds and wildflowers.
So we'll take a little vote. Who votes for Weeds and Wildflowers? Who votes for Trees? Okay, Trees is the winner. So we'll try this one another time. What I'm going to do is read from the book, and then I need you guys pencils down. You need to think of what are the most important words she read, because those are going to be our key words. I'm not going to read the whole book. I'm going to read a part of it, because we don't have time. Do you think we have time right now to summarize this whole book? No. Right. It's got way too many pages. So we're going to start here. The main stem of the tree is called the trunk. Parts of the tree growing out of the trunk are called branches. A twig is a very small branch. Inside the trunk and branches is the wood, which is very strong. Wood looks solid, but actually contains tiny tubes. The sap from the roots moves up through the tubes to the leaves. Most important words.
Like the sap moves up through the tubes.
Okay. Trunk, sap, tubes, leaves. What do you guys think? Okay, let's do that. I love it, you guys. Trunk. Sap. Tubes. And leaves. Yes, but you start. While you guys are finishing, can I read the next page? You can handle it, Oliver. The trunk and its branches hold the leaves so that they get sunlight. The leaves get energy from the sun. They use this energy to make sugar for all the living parts of the tree. From the sugar, the other parts of the tree can make cellulose, oil, protein, and even chemicals like quinine and turpentine. Each kind of tree has its own kind of leaves. Most important words I read.
Sunlight and energy.
Sunlight and energy, leaves,
Sap.
sap. We got sap, but good, Julie. Sap was very important.
We already got leaves too. Yeah, we did.
Okay. Make a line. And the 3 words I heard that you guys said was leaves, sunlight, and
G.
Good. I would say those were the most important.
No, wait. One more. And, chemicals.
I was just about to say, I feel like chemicals is kind of important. But then if we mentioned the chemicals, we would also have to mention cellulose, oil, and protein. So I think that we could just put stuff for all of that, because what happens is that the leaves send the energy from the sunlight, they make it into sugar, they send that to the rest of the tree, and the rest of the tree turns it into stuff like chemicals. cellulose. Cellulose is the wood. That's the part we use the most. But we also use the chemicals. Protein. We can get protein from trees. And what was the last one? Oil. Did you guys know we get a lot of oil from trees?
And we get paper.
Mainly from palm trees. There are these palm trees in Africa and Asia. They're called palm oil. You can make palm oil from the palm trees, and we use that a lot. They send it all over the world. So let's do leaves, and then sunlight, which is a compound word, and we're learning about those. So sun is one root word. Light is another root word, and they're both in one word, so that's a compound. And then energy. And I think we should stop. So make a line.
Can you go first?
Yes, in a minute. You keep.
I have no more space to put sunlight together.
We're using paper right now from a tree. We're using trees right now.
We sure are.
I hate killing trees. Did you know this guy found a tree that was 8,000 years old? And
Before we turn these keywords into a summary, though, I do want to read you just a little bit more because this book is a good book and you guys did pick it. But we're not going to do any more summarizing because this is enough. It's just it has some really cool information. The trunk and branches of a tree have a tough outside covering called bark. Bark protects the tree from insects and injury. It may be thin as a sheet of paper or very thick. Tiny tubes inside the bark move the leaf-made food down to nourish all the living cells in the trunk and roots. This is birch, but it could be an aspen. See how it looks like it? And that
it's
has
an aspen.
thin bark. No, that's a birch. Native Americans used this bark, stretched it over curved bits of wood. How do you curve wood? You have to get it wet. You have to soak it, and then you have to bend it. So they would soak it for a few days in a river, and then they would shove it between two living trees, and push and push and push and turn it into a curve, and then let it dry. Okay? If you push it between two trees, it curves it, right? You shove it in there, and then let it dry. And then they would take some of those curved pieces like this, and then wrap this paper-thin bark to make a canoe. It's a lot lighter, that's called a birch bark canoe, than the other kind of canoe, which is a dugout canoe. A dugout canoe is made from a log, and then you dig out part of it, but it's heavy. It works, but it's heavy. And this kind was light. So if you lived where the water had a lot of waterfalls, like in the mountains, which kind would you want? The light one. If you lived where it's mostly flat with a lot of lakes, and the rivers are slow moving and big, you can make the dugout kind, because you don't need to pick it up much. But if you live in the mountains, every time you get to a waterfall, you can't take your canoe on the waterfall. So you have to pick it up, take it out of the water, and march through the forest until you get to the other side of that waterfall, and then you can get back in the river. So these were good if you lived in the
But
mountains.
the accidentally go down.
Oh yeah.
That'd be better. I've went down a little
It
waterfall
would go down at the bottom, it wouldn't go
that big.
down deep. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. A very thin layer of soft tissue grows between the bark and the wood. It is called the cambium. The cambium makes more wood on its inside and more bark on its outside. And that's how the tree gets bigger every year. Alright? Cambium is kind of that growing part of the tree. It makes a little bit more wood for the middle of the tree each year, and a little bit more bark for the outside of the tree each year. Each year, the cambium adds a new layer of wood around the tree. When the tree is sawed down, these layers appear as rings. Each ring stands for 1 year. Foresters can tell a tree's age by counting the rings near the base of the trunk. See, this one's got a lot. I'm not going to count them right now, but that's a pretty old tree. It's got a lot of rings.
That's
The
not the
cambium also adds new layers of bark, but not as annual rings. The bark does not have the rings. Annual rings can tell us many things about the life of the tree. This picture shows some of them. It looks like the tree got a disease a few years ago, and then the tree got healthy again, right? Recently, and then the middle of the tree seems very healthy. When the rings are wide, it means it was a wet year, and when the rings are narrow, it means it was a dry year. So you can tell a lot about a tree's life. Some trees have showy flowers. They bloom for about 1 week each year. Such trees are dogwood, cherry, peach, and magnolia. We don't have magnolia in Colorado, but do you know how big the flowers get? As big as a plate. They're beautiful.
My mom has one.
Big
My mom
flowers.
has I got my mom's dahlias.
Other, yes, that's like a magnolia. It's that big. Other trees like elms or oaks have tiny greenish flowers that lack showy petals. Lack means don't have. They're just little greenish sort of bulbs. Small trees like apple, peach, or dogwood start to bloom when they are about 5 years old. Large trees, such as the oak, may not bear flowers until they are 50 years old or more. Flowers give off a powdery dust called pollen. After a grain of pollen lights on the pistil of the flower, a seed may start to grow. And I think that's all we need to read, because that's telling us about what a tree has in it and how it protects itself and how it grows. Right? Did you hear that? And it ended with the seed, which means what's happening? A new tree.
Yeah.
A new tree. So I think we have a lot of information that we learned. But if any of you want to learn more about plants, the books about plants are here. Now we need to turn the first set of keywords into a sentence. Let's look at it. Trunk, sap, tubes, leaves. Who can turn that into a sentence?
The trunk makes sap.
Good. A trunk makes sap. Well, wait a minute. Does the trunk make the sap?
The leaves make the sap that's sent into the trunk. The part.
Okay. The sap is made by a lot of parts of the tree. But why do we mention the trunk? What does the trunk have in it for the sap to move through? Tubes. So I think we should say the trunk has tubes for sap to get to
Leaves.
the leaves. That's a big sentence.
No.
I think we can make it shorter by using cause and effect. Cause and effect means we're going to use because. We have to use because. So let's start with sap gets to the leaves, and now I'm going to say because, and now somebody finish that.
The tree makes.
What has tubes?
The tree has two clumps.
So we're going to go sap gets to the leaves because the trunk has tubes. That's called cause and effect. Sap gets to the leaves. Here's our big word. The way I remember this word is I go B-E-C-A-U-S-E, 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 and that's how you can remember how to spell it, because it's a big word, huh? After you start.
Ruben.
you can just use, it's okay, just use a new page. And now I can help
I'm
you.
going to get
Alright, I see some of you forgot to put a capital. Andrew, you did. Hayden, your S could be a little big.
I
Good
did a
job,
capital.
Alder found his and fixed it. Good, you guys. Okay. So our sentence, this is a cause and effect sentence. Sap gets to the leaves because the trunk has tubes. The cause is that the trunk has tubes. The effect is that the sap can get to the leaves. Isn't that cool? And if I said, Miss Canny drinks tea because she is thirsty. The cause is I'm thirsty. The effect is what? What's making me drink the tea? It's a cause, right? The cause is I'm thirsty. The effect is I do what?
drink coffee.
I drink tea. Okay? So what caused me to drink tea? I was thirsty. So if you look at this, what's causing the sap to get to the leaves? The tubes. Isn't that cool? So you've got a cause. The cause is the second part. It's causing the sap to be able to get to the leaves. So that's called cause and effect. The effect is the sap got to the leaves. We're going to write another sentence like that. We need this leaves, sunlight, energy. We're going to use because.
Should we make a line or the
No, we don't need a line. That was just for our keywords, but we need the word because in this sentence. Leif, do you want to try it?
The leaves suck up the sunlight that gives the tree energy.
So he's got all the words in it. Did you guys hear that? The leaves suck up sunlight that gives the tree energy. He doesn't have because. So we're going to shorten his sentence and put because in it. And it's like this. The leaves get energy.
because
There's
energy, sunlight.
Okay, so the cause is the sunlight, and the effect is the leaves get some energy. But if there was no cause, if there was no sunlight, would the leaves get any energy?
No.
No. Let's go ahead and try it. We're going to write the effect first. The leaves get energy.
Capital.
Capital. Good, Alexis. Yes, I would love to, but you start. You start, and then I'll. Okay? I'll go straight for you once I get done here. Okay, sweetie? Leaves. The leaves get energy. Ooh, I'm just going to be able to squeeze energy in because there is, and here comes that compound word. Remember we said this is a compound? Sunlight. Love how you all remembered to put a capital. Good job.
Can you go first? Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to. What is something you notice about cause and effect sentences? Notice anything about them? Who notices something? Okay, I'll ask you, are they short or long?
Long?
Long. Good. Cause and effect sentences are long. Do they have the word because, or do they have the word squishy?
Because.
Because. Why do we write them? What's the point of writing a cause and effect sentence? They tell us why. They're really cool sentences. They tell us why. Not every sentence tells us why, right? I could say, I like bacon. Okay, that's cool. But
I
what
like
if I
basing
said,
bacon
what if I
because
said,
it's greasy.
I like bacon because it's hot and crispy and it has a lot of flavor. Which of those sentences is better? The one with the because. Okay? So when we know why, our brains understand stuff. So even though these sentences are long, we only did two, right? They're so cool because they tell us why. So cause and effect explain why things happen. It's really fun. So well done, because you just wrote two of them and they're big long sentences. But when you write like that, you're letting people know why things happen. So the lesson's over and I get to sign your planners.
For what?
Writing.